Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, CFN. It's interesting. We saw Scott Martin there at the end of that video, and it was really cool to meet him, to say the absolute least. But it was funny, man. I went to the Canada-US Walleye Tournament this past weekend, and a few people thought that I was, in fact, the Scott Martin. And I said, no, the real one is much prettier than I chose walleye over bass. So I'm not smart either. Obviously, he did it right, and has made a fortune and has become very famous. So shout out to the much prettier Scotty Martin. It was an honor to be thought of as you this weekend. But talk about a humbling experience. If you've never fished a tournament, and or maybe you haven't, and you all of a sudden decided to, it was probably similar to what I experienced. Big shout out to my partner Moose. It was a struggle. We went out pre-fishing on Friday. Needless to say, Moose was the only one that caught one on the Friday. And if it wasn't for Moose, we wouldn't have measured a single fish. We wouldn't have weighed in a single fish. And he was on such a hot streak. But managed to catch an over, which we will share on Wednesday. I thankfully didn't get skunked from sturgeon, but it was certainly looking at. And on the Friday, I was just saying to Yvonne and Lisa, caught a smallie for sturgeon, and Moose is pretty sure it's the biggest one he's seen on sturgeon, but I thought it was a carp when it came up to the boat until it turned its head, and I realized that, no, this is a really big smallmouth. What do we do? So we had one of those scratch your head moments where we knew we couldn't take pictures, couldn't take a video, and as I released it, Moose said, well, we should weigh it. It's gone now. Anyway, it was big, so they're there. If you're going back there to bass fish, private message me. I'll tell you where it was that I caught it. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, how's Richard today? How's Jeremy? Nice to see you, Eve. Lloyd's in the house. Terry's with us. Steven, nice to see you as well. Did you at least go? Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely, all day. Moose can attest to that. All day. Yes, sir. There was a lot of that. He was on fire, man. He was on fire. And there was a particular Berkeley bait that we used that Justin from Gagnon suggested. PM me, and I'll tell you that as well. It was killer. It was absolutely killer. Knockout killer. Bob's in the house. Nice to see you as well, Bob. Big Pike. Yes. So this is an action-packed show. We are honored to have yet again Yvonne Brown on as our guest host. We have a special guest, Lisa Tadgell, who is going to be live right from Horwood Lake Lodge. And Warren came on right at the end, so I'm hoping Doris does as well, so we can get both owners on here as well to talk about Horwood Lake Lodge and what they have planned for this year and how it looks for our CFN retreat coming up in August. So I don't want to waste too much with announcements because I know Yvonne's got some. And we have just a couple, but there's a lot going on in the show. And what's really cool when we're done with ladies' night, the panel is going to be coming on as it always does. Jason, Lawrence, and Jim, myself, we are going to be discussing the do not do this things that as anglers you just don't do. There's just certain things. There's a big debate going on right now, or before we went live, about bananas on the boat. It's kind of split. So it'd be interesting to see what your take is in regards to what you folks feel is yay or nay. And right now it's tied, yay or nay, when it comes to bananas. So that'll be interesting to see. Nick, nice to see you, my friend. CFN Fish Off. Holy smokes. We just finally got through the first week of fishing, and I dare say Mike and I are going to be doing Tourney Tuesday tomorrow to give out even more hardware. But we are approaching 1,500 submissions and on pace to blow last year's benchmark out of the water. Unbelievable. There are some incredible submissions coming in. A lot of kids submissions, which was really nice to see. Some family submissions, but that many anglers out right now catching that many fish, like holy smokes. So CFN Fish Off, it's not too late to register. Just go to www.cfnfishoff.com to sign up, or PM Mike or myself, and we will point you in the right direction. But that is the CFN Fish Off going on right now. It's Labor Day to Canada Day. So needless to say, it's going to be busy, really, really busy. This Friday, we have a feature, Lures and Lines. We were up at the tournament two weekends ago. And I want you guys to watch on Friday. We're going to be focusing part one of that trip up there. Really important to not only understand the tournament, the significance of the tournament, and what this tournament means to a local hatchery, as well as the sponsors that sponsor this event. So really cool. We're going to have part one, part two, and part three. Part one is going to be this Friday, so stay tuned to that. And a big shout out right now to my good buddy Brad. Pal Castings has stepped up in a really big way. And if you're Stanley, if you're Dave Gillis, if you're Jim McLaughlin, you're a few beneficiaries of this kind of work and generosity. It's incredible. And it's incredible to know, and it's refreshing to know that we have folks like that in our industry that are willing to step up and help. So I just wanted to add that as well. And in the mail today, I haven't opened the box yet, got something from North Shore. So I think something is happening with North Shore. So stay tuned to that. It's a pretty big box. So you'll want to stick around at CFN and find out what that is. And of course, our CFN, our OFC Nation retreat is going to be happening at Camp McIntosh. And in case you're not too familiar with it, you need a bit of a teaser. Enjoy this. Where are you going, Don?
Camp McIntosh.
Yeah, baby. Where are you going, Don? 22nd to the 24th, we are going to be up at Camp McIntosh for the second annual OFC Nation retreat. Really looking forward to seeing you there. Make sure you get a hold of Tracy and Andre as spots are filling up. I think my son's coming up with one of his buddies, so that's two more butts in bed. So make sure if you want to come, call. Because it's filling up quite quickly. And the other one that we are hoping we can get to fill right up is Horwood Lake Lodge. And of course, we have Lisa Tadgell with us from Horwood Lake Lodge with us tonight. So we are going to be discussing all the things you need to know about Horwood Lake Lodge. Really looking forward to this interview because she's got a plethora of pictures, fish pics. If you like fish and you love pictures of fish, this is the night to join us. So without further ado, I want to play something that was featured by Lisa when it comes to a nice little snippet, nice little teaser for Horwood Lake Lodge. Really well put together. So before I announce Yvonne, bring on Yvonne and announce Lisa as our special guest, have a listen to this.
If you guys are looking to catch a lot of fish, go to a location that has a lot of fish.
That's a good idea.
That's the best idea I've ever come up with.
Good word of advice.
I need a Nobel Peace Prize for that.
Well, I don't know about a Nobel
good.
Peace Prize, but you know what? Just the fact that they mentioned Horwood Lake Lodge at the end, we'll give them something. Ron, always a pleasure to see you.
Nice to see you too, Scotty. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. You've been busy?
Oh yeah, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
You know what? I hate when people say, "Hey, how you been?" Well, I've been so busy. It's everybody says it. It's like let's think of something a different response.
Yeah.
I've been great. I did this or I visited so and so. Like we know everybody's busy, so think of something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. True enough. Well, you know what, Devon, as always, you bring on some incredible guests. Lisa is absolutely no slouch in this. I've known Lisa probably as long, yeah, probably as long as you. Maybe you've known Lisa a little bit longer than I. This girl loves her outdoors.
Oh
Whether
yes,
it's hunting, whether it's fishing, or just on a four-wheeler or a
yeah.
sled. You can't hold this girl down. She's
Mhm.
100 miles an hour, and she is an energy drink all in herself. Only I could be that busy when I get the chance. I tell you, I tip my hat to her, and we live vicariously through Team Tadgell. But I know you probably have a couple announcements as you usually
Mhm.
do. So
Yeah, just a few. We have some events coming up. The first one, unfortunately, is sold out, but I still wanted to mention we have this Fly Fishing 201. So before we ran sort of intro to fly fishing, and this one's just kind of stepping it up a bit. There's still going to be like casting instruction and basic instruction in the morning, and then they're going out. Chris McCoy is leading the event, and she's bringing them out on the Grand River. So they're going to do some on-river fly fishing as well. And and that is June 11th. July 9th, I think the information will be coming out this week, but we have a kayak fishing event. That's going to be at Island Lake in Orangeville. So look for details on that. And July 8th, which is the last weekend of National Fishing Week and license-free fishing days, we're going to be doing an intro to fishing. I don't have a location yet for that, but again, I hope this week that there'll be more information out.
cool.
And then we also have, again, this week is going to come out, we're going to have our annual fundraiser. Das King has really stepped up again and donated, I hope that I get it right, but I think it's a Nautilus, the model. If Chris McCoy is is listening, she can correct me, but that's going to be the main prize, and then we'll have a couple of more smaller prizes. So again, that information will be coming out, and the draw is open to everyone. They don't just have to be like affiliated with OWA or be a female angler. Anyone can buy tickets.
Cool. Very cool. Right on. And that date again is?
The fundraising information should come out this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one was in June, you said, I think, for the
that's the fly. It is a sold out event, but I just like to mention it that it's going to be it'll be in Orangeville, and there is like again we're kind of trying to cater for people who already have some fly fishing experience. So so to bring them out on the river and instead of just like a stocked pond.
Awesome. That's very, very cool. Right on. What have you yourself got upcoming in the next little while? I know you're always busy.
Oh gosh, like
any trips planned? Any big fishing trips planned?
We're supposed to go to Quebec in August. Looking forward to that. I've got my grandson for a week in July, so we'll be out on the boat and visiting the horses in the back and playing outside. So I really enjoy that. And I have a granddaughter coming in July. So that between those things alone, I don't even know if I have time for fishing.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
No,
but it's all good, and I, on or off the water, I'm, happy doing what we're doing.
I get it. Brian, I tell you, this is a generous lad. You ever need or want donations, let me know how I can help out. Brian is he's got a huge heart and very, very generous. Mindful fishing. Yeah, he's helping Christine in a big way, and he's just an all-around good dude. So, Brian, thanks for that, buddy. Really appreciate that. And yes, Terry, 100%. Congratulations, Yvonne, to the entire family.
Yes, the family's growing. This is the second great grandchild for my mom.
Oh, smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
She never liked children when she was younger.
Yeah.
And she ended up having 5. And then she has 11 grandchildren, and now will be 2 great-grandchildren. So,
Yeah, that's going to be busy.
yeah.
Busy on the holidays for sure. So we have Lisa coming up now.
Yes.
Outside of the fact that she's extremely popular on social media, very active on social media as well, very good at putting little snippets like we just shared together. She catches the odd fish from time to time. She manages to hunt down a few feathered characters as well as clawed and toothy critters. I have to ask the obvious question: what made you bring Lisa here tonight? I'm just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah, she's just like you said, her social media presence and 100%. Her just sharing all these outdoor opportunities that she not just participates in, but she brings other people along, right? She's a phenomenal mentor, whether it's salmon fishing or bear hunting or turkey hunting or whatever. She's sharing those experiences and with her family as well. So, I mean, that's all about, it's a very well-rounded approach. It's not just to be a participant, but to share your knowledge and expertise and your time in the outdoors and pass that on to, next generations.
And that's the key. And what she's doing with her grandkids truly is a testament to what, our group's foundation is teaching and exposing the next generation to what it is that we enjoy, our heritage, our this is what our ancestors grew up doing. And, Lisa takes it to the nth degree to maintain, the enjoyment and shows that on a regular basis. But the fact that, as you mentioned, bringing the family along and sharing all of the journey with the family is really cool as well. So without further ado, let us bring the star of the show on here, Lisa Tadgell. Oh, how you doing, Lisa?
Good. How are you?
I see you have a friend.
Yeah, I couldn't get rid of him.
Oh, that's too funny. Warren, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And I must admit, when you walked on stage here before we went live, you look good, dude. You've lost some weight, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're looking really
Appreciate
good.
it, Scotty.
That's well, I know how hard it is, so I have to go out of my way to say congratulate those who can do it, because this fat arse can't. So I applaud you being able to do it. So Lisa, Yvonne always brings on folks here that the ladies that come on here are just so busy with a whole bunch of initiatives. You are no different. Your social media is just something. I remember many moons ago, it was mentioned to me, if you want someone to look at for social media, it was Linda Miller, actually. Linda said, you want to have a look at what Lisa does. And she was bang on, because you are a busy lady.
Yeah, she always tells me that I do a wonderful job on social media.
Yep, 100%. So Lisa, I got to ask the question, the first question anyway, and then I'm sure Yvonne has a bunch of others, but I'll ask the first question because the one thing that I truly admire about you is not only your family exploits and bringing the family on a lot of your journeys, but just the number of species of fish that you catch. You are not only busy on social media, but you're a busy angler.
Yeah.
I try.
Who got you into fishing?
It was my dad and my grandfather. I forgot to send you a picture of me when I was 12 years old fishing, but
we have some. There's some older photos in here, and I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. But anything strike you as memories when you see some of these pictures?
Well, that right there, that was my first muskie.
Wow!
Oh wow!
And I was with Linda Miller.
Wow.
We were walleye fishing on Lake St. Clair.
Walleye fishing.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a nice brown. A lot of the salmon are from Lake Ontario.
Right. And are you doing any tournaments this year on Lake Ontario?
Unfortunately, we haven't gone back since COVID because of Jamie, but we are hoping to get back for a week or a weekend and do some fishing.
Nice.
And then you fish up. You're up Owen Sound way, so you fish like Lake Huron and Georgian Bay?
Yeah, I live right on Lake Huron, but not as many salmon in Lake Huron as there should be. But Georgian Bay, we used to do the Owen Sound fishing derby all the time.
Do you like
That was
fishing,
Lake
Lisa?
Ontario last year.
Yeah, it's hard to know that you like fishing. It really, sometimes it's very difficult to know. Lisa, she like fishing. Yeah, she's smiling in just every single picture. You're just like me.
Oh, and that's the river right at my house. That
Wow.
catfish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How
Do you
old
catch
were you when
any-
you started fishing?
Good
Oh,
question.
I probably about 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
And it was mostly
always
with
with my
family that you fished?
with my grandparents, I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
Very cool.
that was from the other night. That one.
Are you doing tournaments this year?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I
You're
would like to get back to doing the one on Lake Ontario.
Mhm.
I just heard a cheer. I think that's everybody that's so glad to hear that you're not doing tournaments.
Oh, I thought it was a Rowdy Cabin 1, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you're up at Horwood Lake Lodge. I've never visited myself, but I've heard a lot about it through Scotty and CFN. Can you tell us a little bit about the lodge and what you're doing up there? Or maybe Warren could?
Yeah.
She doesn't get to fish while she's here. I make her do work.
Oh.
I did tell you guys earlier that I cut the grass.
Yes, that is
You know,
true.
I try to help out. Once in a while we'll get out fishing. We don't fish every day.
Mhm.
You try to.
We try to, but I whine a little bit and then I'll run out and get out. But no, I enjoy outdoors and just being out here, and the woods are totally different here than they are at home.
Yeah.
And the fishing, the jigging is the same I could do in the Sarnia River, but it's just so pretty here.
And to further that question that Yvonne asked, when folks ask me, like, Scotty, I want to book a fly-in trip, and if depending on if I know them well enough or not, and I know where they are in terms of my financial status, I will suggest to them every day of the week and twice on Sunday, if you want a fly-in experience without the fly-in price tag, Horwood Lake Lodge is the closest example that I can think of that is a fly-in type approach. Would you agree, Lise?
Yes. Yeah. It's like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. In the middle of nowhere, fishing is off the hook. As I say, no matter how hot it was that one August we had, every single night everybody wanted to fish fry. Didn't matter how tired they were, didn't matter how not hungry they were because of the heat. Everybody wants to fish fry. And this lake, I don't know how it does it, but it delivers every single year for our community.
Well, I think a good example of that, Scotty, is when you and I went out fishing last year. What did we go out about 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning, high sun, hot, went fishing out middle of nowhere, like middle of the lake, no shade. And you and I boated like 30, 35 fish in 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You don't do that very often on most bodies of water.
And that's the thing. And I just finished the Canada-U.S. walleye tournament, and by 11 o'clock, the fishing on sturgeon shuts down.
Yeah. And
I was trying to explain to Moose that this time of day, it doesn't necessarily turn on at Horwood, but it never turns off. So there's, we sometimes will say to Warren and Doris, if it's a nice day, there's not a lot of wind or it's just a little bit of wind, can we have dinner a little bit earlier? Because the night bite is really good. But lately, I would have to say there is no difference almost now. In the last couple times that I've gone up for the retreat, the fishing is solid all day long. And to keep people out on the water from, let's say, 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier, right to dinner, which is at 6, and nobody really comes in unless they're extremely tired. Like, you have to be engaged, and those fish do a wonderful job of making sure that all of our community is engaged while they're up there. So again, it's a phenomenal lake. And Dave Helmer, who's just down the way from you, he was sending me some pics, and he said the fishing lately has been on fire. I don't know what it's like, Lisa. You were saying just because of the heat, it may be a little je ne sais quoi.
Well, the last couple, we went out twice last week, and we just went out at 8 o'clock at night, and we boated like 12 cotton release.
Wow.
Wow. Now, I do have to say, most of the time, you and Jamie are together. Uh,
Yeah.
Give me, how cool is that to have, your mate, your the love of your life, enjoy the outdoors. I was hoping that he was here. He was
Yeah.
here listening to no, but your soulmate that
Yeah.
shared this journey and these adventures
Well,
each and every time you go out.
yeah. Well, he got sick 9 years ago, and it kind of changed both of our lives about it. Just experiences together. We could have lost him, so we kind of live each day as it could be our last.
Yeah.
We're doing everything we love to do.
Yeah, no, true.
So no,
You guys,
it is special.
you guys are a great pair together. It's awesome to see, especially when you're up at Horwood. You could tell that you've been married as long as you have. You enjoy each other's company. It's awesome. It's really awesome. And for those like my wife, she's not a big fan of the outdoors. So I can imagine how cool it is to be able to go out and do this with as I said, the person you're married with. Very, very cool.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing to even pass it on to the grandkids.
100%.
Jackie's been up. She'll be coming back up again in August, and this will be her third time up here, and she loves it up here too.
Cool.
Wow. How old is she?
Usually outfishes us.
How old is she, Lisa?
She just turned 9 in April.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so while you're up at Horwood, you're doing some hunting as well?
Yes, I'm going to be bear hunting June 10th to the 15th or something. So hopefully in the first couple of days I'll get a bear. Cross your fingers.
I got a few.
He's got a few lined up for me.
And so I'm just looking at Scotty's pictures. So you hunt waterfowl, and I know that you hunt turkey as well,
Yep.
a bear, deer.
Yep.
And any other animals? Coyote?
No, I've tried hunting, but I've never shot one.
No.
Yeah. No, grouse. Did my first grouse hunting up here last fall. It was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never tried that yet.
Oh no, and they're really good to eat.
Now you've shot, is it just the one bear that you've shot up there, Lisa, or have you shot 2?
3.
3. You've shot 3. Wow.
Wow.
This is one healthy
The size
bear.
of that one.
Yeah, that is one healthy bear. Holy smokes. And Warren, how are your hunting trips? Are you booking a lot of folks up for bear hunting
We're
season?
sold out of bear hunts for this season. We're already, we're 35% booked for 2024 already on bear hunts.
Holy smokes.
Moose hunts are already sold for this year, and we've got people inquiring for next 2. Hunting up here is incredible. We've got great game. We've got a great resource that we're lucky to have, really. This whole area is surprisingly untouched in one way, even though there's logging operations nearby. They have their benefits to us as well. They help maintain the roads, so we all have access to these great places and can access all the lakes and backcountry that, a lot of people just kind of look at and wonder how you get to. Well, we're blessed to live in it.
Yeah.
I guess the way to look at it.
True enough.
But no, I gotta get running here soon, so I'm gonna do a quick Lisa plug. But no, just to reiterate, Lisa's great to have up here. She helps a lot, around with everything. Plus, she helps promote the women in the outdoors for us too, which is something Horwood Lake Lodge likes to promote and wants to keep promoting and help to do. So she gets us in contact with a lot of ladies that are looking to either learn about the outdoors or already involved, and has helped a lot. We've had quite a few women through already. We got a couple ladies from Bear Magnet TV coming back again this year to hunt some more. So it's been good that way. And it's nice to have, people that are here that want to help and come up. And it's great for Doris and I too, because it's a big place to run, and it's great when we just have a couple extra helping hands. So when Lisa's carrying all the smelly bear bait in the woods for me, I mean, that makes light work of it in a big hurry. But and plus it's really handy having her and Jamie here all the time, because they do a lot of work on the lake, patterning the fish, finding fish, telling me where they've been, where I don't have the time to get on the water much.
Yeah.
A lot of our guests think, oh God, you live in a lodge, you must fish every day.
No.
Yeah, I get to fish about 5 days a year. So, and it's, I love it up here, and this is my passion too. So, I mean, having people like Lisa and Jamie with us is nothing but a positive and great energy to have around.
Very, very cool.
That's great.
Before you go, Warren, anything that you'd like to say to outside of "Are you ready?" To our CFN community?
Well, for CFN, for the retreat especially, we're ready to see all of you again. We're only about half booked right now.
Okay.
So we've got lots of opportunity for people that want to come on out for a great time. I mean, the group's fabulous. The way we set it up with out in the tent, everybody's outside as a big group. It's a lot of fun. The evenings are great, but it's also it honestly is, and it's a good deal for the CFN. I mean, the shared accommodations, some people, it seems to work fine. That's the only kind of, I would say, if there's a drawback to some, but we have a lot of different size cabins. So, I mean, if there's 2 of you or 4 of you, we can generally accommodate that. So you're not always with strangers. But other than that, big community event. We didn't change the price from last year. We're still $875 per person. This year, I'm gonna supply bait in there as well. So all the bait you guys can use, it'll be here. I'll have it here, and I'm supplying it.
That's
so
awesome.
Get the word out to your friends. Book your spot, because honestly, if you haven't been to a CFN retreat, you really have no idea what you're missing.
I'd like to join one day. I've heard so much about this.
It was actually interesting because Warren, the first year, he had asked me, and I'm sure you'll remember this, Warren, how important, he said, I got some wood around the campfire, but how important is the campfire at the end of the day? It's kind of important. And after the first night, he's like, yeah, I see your point, because it is. Every night we gather around the fire. It's the focus. We're feeding fish. And as I said, that lake, as Terry mentioned, in 45 years, he's been fishing it. It's never disappointed, and it has never disappointed us up there. We've always been able to feed people. Again, when it comes to who we're affiliated with, both Camp McIntosh and Horwood, Warren and Doris go out of their way. Lisa is as Warren has mentioned, is a huge help up there. It's just a great experience and very like-minded people. You don't have drama. There's no issues of any negativity, if you will. It's just a great experience. So if you're looking to go up and experience the kind of fishing that our North Country provides, why not give Horwood Lake a try? And I'll leave it at that. And we're certainly going to do our best, Warren, to get that booked up solid by the time the date comes around. But until then, folks, if you know anybody that wants to go on a fishing trip, not really sure if you'll be able to get back out again, this is an opportunity you don't want to pass up. Horwood Lake Lodge is just that good. That's about all I can say.
Well, guys, I got to head out. I got a bear hunter out in the woods, and I got some boats to deal with. So anyways, have a great night, and we'll see you in August, Scotty.
Can't wait, my friend. Cannot wait. Give a kiss to Doris for me.
Yeah, I shall do that.
Sounds like you're in heaven up there.
No kidding.
It
No
is.
kidding. Did you have any more questions, or did you, Yvonne?
No, actually, I was going to ask Lisa, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to mention?
No, not really. I love promoting the outdoors, especially to other women who have never, shot a turkey or shot a bear. Oh, look, that's really old.
Yeah.
But and I enjoy doing it with my family. Like that was a big tournament we were in.
Yes.
That we won some money in. But there's the granddaughters.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you always have the granddaughters. Team Tadgell. I can't believe how she's grown. Holy smokes.
No. She's really tall now. Yeah.
Unreal. She was the size of my cup when I first met her. Now she's a tall glass of drink of water. Very, very cool. But yes, just adorable. I love her release videos. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Love seeing your family shots.
For sure.
Yeah, there's Warren. I got him in one. I got him out fishing.
Wow. He looks very surprised.
Wow. How many days of salmon fishing do you think you do a year?
When we did it, we would stay in Bluffers for like a month. So we would be fishing every day we could get out if the lake wasn't rough.
Wow.
And that would be twice a day. So we go in the morning and then again at night.
Wow.
It's a grind.
Yes, for sure.
But when you get that tug of that 30-pounder,
oh yeah,
there's nothing like it.
Especially the paycheck that comes along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
You'd
nice
need
contract.
it. You'd need it if you were doing it for a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun though. Lake Ontario, it's a completely different fishing than Lake Huron. I mean, so
Mhm.
Lake Huron, I always say just go for a boat ride.
Oh.
Yeah. I hear you.
Lake Ontario, I think anybody can go and catch salmon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. There are quite a few.
Well, Lise, as always, thanks so much for spending some time with us. On behalf of all of our CFNers that show up, we really appreciate your help during our retreat. I know Warren and Doris, as Warren just mentioned, they appreciate it too. It's a delight to have you a part of our community, and as active as you are in our community, you're a positive influence, and as Yvonne said, a great mentor, not only for ladies, but all anglers and all outdoor enthusiasts. So a tip of the hat to you, my lady.
Thank you.
And, hopefully the bugs, they cooperate. The fish
Yeah,
do
not
too.
too bad.
And it cools down just a tad.
It is cooling down now. I can feel a little breeze. So,
Nice.
well, thank you
Right
for
on.
having me.
Thanks so much, Lisa.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Take care, Lisa. All the best.
Okay. See
Bye
you. We'll
now.
see you at CFN. I'm sure I'm going to be here.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Right on. Well, as always, Yvonne, you never seem to fail us when it comes to your guests. Lisa, as we saw, busy girl. I love the fact that
You're a lovely lady.
Yeah, and I love the fact she's able to she does what she does with her family. That's the coolest part. A lot of folks can sort of keep that to themselves. Maybe that's just their thing to do, but she does a fantastic job forcing everyone to go out with her. And as I said, the memories are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Good.
So you got a week upcoming. We got news of grandkids. Anything else you wanted to mention before we leave? You leave us tonight, Yvonne?
No, because I'm going to go into a coughing fit.
Okay. Okay. Right on.
I'm really trying to keep it
You've
down.
done a fantastic job. Well, anyway, so that you can breathe, because I don't want you to turn blue. Thanks so much, Yvonne. As always, you bring a wealth of information from the ladies that are guests here that are featured. So we can't thank you enough, and we appreciate it and look forward to your next guest.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All the
And we'll
best.
see you next month.
Right on.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks so
The
much,
panel's
buddy.
coming up next, right after a word from our sponsor. Lawrence is in the house.
How you doing?
Good, buddy. We got a few moments. Jim's just making it on here now. Jay is. We could talk behind them. Oh, they're all here.
Oh no! There was two things I had on my list of not to do. You know, they just showed up.
There you go.
Hey, did you get a haircut, Lawrence?
No,
You combed it.
maybe that's it. No, you know what? I did get a haircut. You're right. I got a haircut last week before my mom came down.
Oh,
that was
long hairs.
my pre-mother visit haircut.
Oh, wow.
That's funny.
So I'll go around. We'll start with you, Lawrence. What have you been busy doing lately?
Oh, just getting all the youth programs ready for Bluefish Canada. That's been a big push.
Yeah.
We've got our first one on June 10th, our next one on June 10th, I should say. We're expecting 150 youth to show up at the OPG Center there in Cornwall. The OPG sponsoring the whole event. And we'll have two. Now I'm plugging this, okay? Give me a minute to plug this. We're going to have two sessions. The first one is from 11 to 1, and then the second one's from 1:30 to 3:30. And at the end of each session, there'll be a little Q&A, and then we'll draw to give away a Shimano spinning rod reel combo. And we're going to have all sorts of workstations and some cool stuff to give away. Lots of stuff to give away. We're calling it Get Ready for Fishing. So head out to Cornwall if you're in that area. Register. The link for the registration is in the Bluefish News. It just came out today.
Fantastic. Jeremy's also mentioning too that there's a wonderful article on the kid division on Bluefish Canada in your email.
Oh yeah. I wrote an editorial on youth divided. City mice, country mice, right? And how that divide is evolving over time. But we can get into more of that later on.
Yeah, interesting. Jim, I know you've been busy tying. Anything else you've been up to?
Had a chance to cool?
Yeah.
Now, if I showed you this box, what would you say?
How many?
No, like who was I making these for? Like a what fisherman?
A smallmouth fisherman.
Yeah, that's a brook trout fisherman.
Oh, wow. Wow. Incredible. Well, so yes, you have been busy. Lots of orders, Jim. You've had.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like every time I get, like I was getting down at the bottom of the list there of what I have for individuals, and I added a whole bunch more on here today. I've got 2 stores. I've got to do East Hills for bass season opening. I got to do Gagnons. So I got marabou in my mouth looking black. It's everywhere in the house. It's everywhere in the house. I went to the dump today, and the box that I tie in that sits between my knees, an old box here. I don't know whether you can see inside. It's already see all the black in the bottom.
Wow. Yeah.
So I go outside. It's pretty windy, so I very gently put the box into the garbage can at the bottom, shake it all out, get it all down, get it all out. No problem at all. Got 2 or 3 small bags of garbage from the house, put them in gently on top of it, Then I'm driving to the dump, and of course I just got in the truck, and it was about 1,000 degrees here when I went to the dump. And I'm driving along, and I go, the heat hasn't come on when I hit the highway up here, so I put the windows down.
Ouch.
Ooh, there's marabou just everywhere in the car, flown around. It's just everywhere all over the place. So I'm embarrassed. My face is red.
Wow, that's
It was
hilarious.
funny though.
That's
But we
awesome.
got it all out. I took the lead blower to the truck when I got home.
Goodbye,
That is
receipts.
hilarious.
Dude, you're the only guy that could have a marabou catastrophe like that, my man. Like that is wild.
Well, I had the regular size kitchen garbage can, the bag.
Yeah.
2 months ago, I had a clear bag that I had put inside the box here, and it was filled to the top with the waste that you don't use.
Right. Wow.
I've stuffed down many times, and then I tied it. So I'm going to stick to the bit with the bag in the box moving forward.
Yeah.
You know?
Jay, while I've got you, I know you've been busy, and Jeremy is alluding to how tired you look. I know you've been busy. If you're back in the hotels, I see. But I wanted to just before we went live, I want to give a shout out to a product made by Berkeley, and not because we're sponsored by them. But I just wanted to say that they worked. Justin from Gagnon suggested it for Sturgeon Lake. You can tell us a little bit more about it, but all I can say, I've never used this bait before. Man, it worked.
Yeah, so this may not be the exact color, but I'm gonna show it anyways. So like that's
very similar.
That's the general shape. Now it's called the Champ Minnow, and it was designed by Jordan Lee after he won the Classic about 4 years ago. And it's basically a drop shot bait. You know, it has a fork tail instead of the paddle tail.
Yeah.
But Berkeley's now they have traditional colors with it, but they have these HD color patterns, and that one there I think is baby bass, and I think the one that you were using on sturgeon, They have like a shad color, a minnow color, and it's almost like they stamped a live fish on the side of the lure. And it's power bait too. It's a great bait. And what's nice about power bait when you're using Max Scent, which a lot of folks use, like the flatworm, which is a great bait, but it's not as durable as power bait. You can catch 3 times as many fish on regular power bait, and it still works well. So,
right.
Yeah, very cool that you caught fish on that, and walleye too, which is fantastic.
100%. 100%.
No, Scotty, were you using the same lure?
Here's what happened. We had such a hard time trying to find active fish on the Friday. We went pre-fishing, and thankfully Moose managed to catch the one. So we had an idea.
Look at the conditions, though. Eh?
Oh, they were, and Jim, as I said, your knowledge of that lake is just, it's priceless. And the areas that we fished were pretty much the same areas that you had mentioned after we got off the water.
Hey, the big flat when you come out of the river, is that where you caught the smallie?
A little bit further down from that, but pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had caught, until the smallmouth boom, I had caught the biggest smallmouth I ever caught in my life off that flat.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, it was probably about, I don't know, like 7.6, 7.8.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
on a bucktail ripping for walleyes.
Is that right? Okay. Well, I wasn't using a bucktail. Believe it or not, I was using a worm on a drop shot. I had some. It was from Impact Baits, salted worm, just a drop shot presentation. Dropping it in, much like you do with your largemouth. You drop it into the holes of the weeds. Yeah, that's all I was trying to. I was desperate trying to find walleye. We were having a heck of a time. But as you mentioned, Jim, that lake is definitely a morning bite. I don't know what it's like at night. I would really love to fish that at dusk to see if it's a dusk bite. But definitely a morning. As soon as 10:30, 11 o'clock hits, you might as well go home. They're gone. They're back into deeper water.
That's when you should be ripping.
And what was the wind doing on Saturday, Scotty? What was the wind like on Saturday?
Nothing crazy. It sort of came out of the north in the beginning of the day. Yeah. Then turned westerly. Temperatures obviously went up. It was a chilly morning on a Saturday morning.
It was pretty calm though, eh? Like relatively
very
calm.
Yeah, very calm. It was actually.
I hear Lawrence snoring.
No, I'm taking it all in, buddy. I'm thinking. I fish the Ottawa Region Walleye League, and I know all about 10, 11 o'clock a.m. And how things can just shut down, especially on those blue sky days when the water's calm. And then
but at least you got tannic water there.
Yeah, not all the lakes. No, you gotta, like some lakes are more sort of very vegetative, and others are more tannic. But we fish a lot of the lakes where there's a lot of bass tournaments, so there's a lot of weed beds. But it's still, things just shut down. If the water's flat, calm, then the water's clear. And it's bright sun. But I agree, Jim. You think everything's shut down and they won't touch anything slow. They won't touch. But then someone comes along and ripping jigs, and they're getting hit. Bam, 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 just ripping jigs.
You ever watch all the videos the Linders show with the jigging wraps?
Yeah.
The water's glass calm.
Yeah.
Because they're having a hard time getting a bite. So what do? They rip something past the fish, and either it looks at it and says no, or it eats it.
And those are big, they're casting them way out and big long rips, right? 3, 4.
Oh yeah. 6, 7, 8 feet.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. When you watch a person who really knows how to rip jig, it's poetry in motion. When I used to watch Joe Kashak, he taught it to me. And man, oh man, when I watched him do that, when he used to get that rod and rip it, hit the handle, and let it spin and just follow the line back, and he'd rip it again. That was a Berkeley LR50s.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
They were the best rod for that. Yeah. And then of course back then there's rods now that I truly believe bury it. But back then, holy jumping, there was only one rod that you could really, really use that really did it.
Yeah.
So what was special about that rod? 6 foot, 6'6"?
No, I think it was like 5'8" or something like that.
A short, stout rod.
5'9" had just a little bit of a quick tip on the end of it. And man, oh man, did it do the job.
Crazy.
Jay, I like using a longer one with the same action now.
Yeah.
Because when I do it, like when I was out a couple of years ago with Chong, the one day that I just buried them, he was shocked I was using a rod that I think was 7.4.
Right.
And it was funny the biggest rips that I got, the ones that were, I know the jig was probably traveling 6, 7, 8 feet through the weed, just busting through. And I'd go to jig it again, and they'd be there. They'd have it, and it was on those big, massive rips. And of course, braided line makes it so much easier now than it used to when we did mono. Right? But see, you can do that in open water. That's what they do with the jigged rafts. It's across scattered flats, 10, 12, 15, 18 feet deep, even deeper. And it works. It's just something that absolutely works,
Well, Jim, you would have been proud because Gooch came up alongside us at one point and he said, "You know what, Scotty, you look angry." You look like
come here and I'll show you angry. You got any water? Asking you the water and Ann goes by. How did he do?
I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure how he did.
He won that once, didn't he?
He did.
Probably,
he won.
He came second twice.
He's got a beautiful bolt. We'll see that. But Danny McGarry managed to pull it out. I think it was eight and change that he won it with. He boated a couple fish in front of Moose and I, so we knew that he was definitely in the hunt. But yeah, he's a definite poker player because when he came into the weigh-in, you wouldn't have known he had any fish unless you were a poker player yourself, and you could see it written all over his face. Oh yeah, he's got this. He's got it.
Was so close,
But so Scotty, you were around fish. Gooch was catching fish. McGarry's catching fish.
Yeah.
What were you doing wrong, Scotty? Tell me.
You know what? I honestly have no idea, Jay, and I can honestly say, people may have thought that Moose has got himself a ringer. He's got the walleye expert. It was a humbling experience. That's all I could say. The over that I caught finally near the end of the day certainly paid for itself, and it was a great memory with Moose. But Moose is on fire. He's at the front of the boat, and basically, and Jim will attest to this because he's been on that body of water. But we were just behind a school, and we were literally pushing the school along the shoreline. And Moose kept saying, "Come up to the front." I'm like, "No, you don't ruin what's going. If it's working, just keep it the way it is." No. I said, "I'm not like that. I don't get upset if I'm not catching fish. I could care less. I'm happy as heck." But that boy, I think he pulled out 17 from the front. He did. Wow. Moose killed. He did really, really well. In fact, I think at one point he was ready to give up bass tournament fishing and strictly do. I said, "Let's do the PWT, you and I." Now, what have you been busy, Jay? What have you been busy doing?
You know what? I have just been grinding what do they call that? Burn the candle at both ends, man. It's been we're out. I've been doing lots of research, actually a lot of R&D. We have a lot of new equipment we're testing out right now for different questions, trying to figure out. We're trying all these work in rivers, and we're trying to map the rivers, and we're trying to sample fish in the rivers. And these are places that really boats aren't intended to go. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to do things safely. I've actually worked with a company. We built a new electrofishing boat, and it's a whitewater catamaran raft. So it's on 2 pontoons, like a mini pontoon boat, and it's going to help us sample big fish in small rivers. And
Scotty wants to borrow that next year for the Canada US.
Well, yeah. I got to say this, because I know that Will's memorial is this week, but your tournament story is funny because it reminds me of a story about Will I'll share. And many years ago, Will and I were at one of the OBN qualifiers, and there was an old rule in the qualifier rules, and it was something like, you can't get advice or fish with ministry staff. I'm paraphrasing it, but it was a very old rule. And someone protested, like at the meeting on the Friday night, someone came forward and was like, we have a couple guys here who work for 2 different ministries, Will and Jason, and they're in violation of this rule. And Will and I looked at each other. We're like, you got to be flipping kidding me. Like, if I was that good at catching fish, I'd have won my Bassmaster Classic already. So don't tell me that Will and I have this edge on everyone else in the room. And we just laughed our asses off. They ended up changing the rule because of that. I called it the Wegman rule for a long time because he was in the OBN 10 years before I was. It was, God, we had a good laugh. We had a good laugh about that, speaking of tournaments. But Scotty, I'm just getting used to the heat, man. I need a haircut. I'm getting the gym flow here on the side. I need to trim that up a little bit. I know. Like, I got the wave going. It's going to be 30 degrees this week, so I need to get
the trimmer out and make the top flat.
Oh, go right over. Yeah.
Don't go down.
All right, just go. Well, I'll keep a little fun in the back for you, Jim. I want to make sure.
I'll get mine long enough in the back. It's on my shoulders. I want Tammy to put a braid in it.
A man bun. You just get a man bun.
That's not funny, Lawrence.
It would be funny from my distance, from here, sitting here.
But yeah, you know what, Scotty? I was out last night. Trevor talked me to go kayak fishing last night. Kayak fishing this time of year is a tough one. Like where we live in Long Point Bay, bass season's obviously closed. The inner bay itself is pretty warm right now, so the pike fishing's not the best. The perch fishing's not the best. The crappie are done spawning. We went out gar fishing. It's a little early for the spawning gar yet. They haven't quite doing that yet.
Yeah.
So I got a couple nice sunset pictures last night. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was pretty slow fishing last night. A lot of carp. I should have brought a carp rod. But you know what, man? It was just nice to get on the water last night, and I'm totally bagged today because I've been up since 5 o'clock and been outside most of the day. But sometimes I got to suck it up, and I got to go fish with my son last night. I didn't get home till 10:30. I was up packing till 11:30. Went to bed at midnight. Got up at 5, just to spend 3 fishless hours on Long Point Bay with my kid. And all he caught was a snapping turtle, in which I had to take the hook out of.
Hey.
So that was and that's not the first time he's caught that's his 3rd snapping turtle. And you guys know about idiot teenage sons? You guys ever heard of that term, idiot teenage sons?
No, never.
I got them except for growing up.
So we're launching the kayaks yesterday, and Trevor sees a snake. He yells out snake, and he goes and grabs the net. I'm like, that's cool. He's gonna go bring a snake over. He's never seen a water snake before, apparently. He brings me over this 3-foot water snake. The thing is in my net going crazy. And if you guys have seen water snakes, and they are miserable creatures. They
bite.
And he's got this thing and he's trying to grab it. And I'm like, dude, this isn't a garter snake. It's a northern water snake. I'm like, get rid of it. And it was snapping at him. And he's like, what do I do with it? I go, get it out of the net. I'm just like, how did I ever get a hold of this kid? Unbelievable.
I was out the back here a couple of years ago one night. It was a beautiful night, and I saw one go by. And I was fishing a frog, and I threw it out, and right away he over toward it, and I pulled the frog out. And I tormented him for a couple of seconds there, back and forth. And I just went back to fishing. And about 30 seconds later, I just feel on my leg. He bit me.
Oh yeah.
Out of the blue, and I looked down, I could see the blood, and I'm looking at it, and he's sitting there, and I went, well, I had a few choice words for him, me and a snake, and of course I'm not going to stomp it. I'm not like that. It's snake, snake, I don't care. And I'm looking at it, and I went to shoot, my foot, the bugger did it again.
Oh,
and the impact, how hard they hit.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So it was pretty cool though, because he went on a skewer over the fire real nice.
Seriously though, I've had them coil up and launch at me, and they get air. They're literally off the ground, and you're like, get back. They are miserable down around Leamington and Pelee Island and Point Pelee. They're thick down there because they feed on gobies all the time, and they just basically, if there's a rocky shoreline, they'll hide under the rocks, and they come out and just swim around the rocks eating gobies. But during the day, when it's really hot, they just kind of get in the shade under the big rocks. And you look under a big slab of limestone, and there'll be 30 of them in there. I've heard the same thing happens out on the ducks. I was
just going to say that. That's what I was leaning for.
Tom went up. I guess he got off on the ducks one day. I don't know if he had to go to the bathroom or something. He said it was just a snake pit. There was just snakes everywhere.
I'm not kidding. I've got out and gone for a walk along the shore, looking for a bush, and seen like 100.
Yeah.
Some of them are 5-6 feet long. I don't know what they are.
And they're miserable creatures, man.
Yeah. Well, they've got garter snakes, milk snakes, and water snakes on those islands, and they have no predators, right? So there's nothing taking their numbers down.
There's nothing there for them to eat either, I don't think. It's weird.
No, but what's interesting, Duck Islands, if anybody's ever been there out the Bay of Quinte, you'll know there's not much there other than some dead wood because the cormorants.
There's lots of vegetation.
Oh, is there? Okay, that's not the same one I'm thinking of then.
But there's no trees. It's almost all just shrubs, herbaceous weeds and plants, right? That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right. Very good. Well, gentlemen, the reason I brought you three here today, the four of us are here, we're here to discuss the never do this moments as an angler, whether you're a boater, whether you're an angler, whether you're just someone that tags along. One thing that I always cringe, and I don't know what Jim's sharing was. Jim's
What are you
showing.
showing us, Jim?
What is?
This was a day that a buddy called me, and my boat was at the marina because one of the bolts, there's something had gone wrong with one of the bolts on the mount. I couldn't get it to tighten. And he says to me, I just bought a new boat. Can you come show me how to use it?
Right.
And I said, well, do you want to go musky fishing? It's a rainy, horrid day on the Rideau River. And he says, yeah, sure. You can see there's no depth finder. There's just the mount. He just had, was just a little eagle, snap in one or whatever.
Yep.
So we went out that day, and I joked around. I was fishing with one of Mike's big tubes, and I had him fishing with a big bucktail spinner. And we caught 7. He caught 3. Never caught one in his life. And I caught 4. And every one of them came on the tube. So that's why and that was the last banana. So we took the picture with it because bananas don't get wet in the boat. And the only guys that are bad about bananas is guides on days when they don't get a bite. They're just praying somebody pulls a banana out of a bag and they can go, oh, you brought a banana. That's
right.
Fish.
Funny. Well, one thing that I was taught at a very young age, and I didn't even have expensive rods at the time, but if you had a jig or you had a treble or you crankbait, what have you, and you're putting it away or you're storing it for the night, you're putting it down at the dock in the boat, what have you. Sometimes there is that extra little piece near the reel that you can tie a treble to. If there's not, I was always told, put it on the support of the guide. Don't put it on the actual guide itself.
Mm-hmm.
And never really understood at a young age why, but I'll tell you, we get constant reminders. And I saw this video today, which again is a perfect reminder of why you don't put it on the guide. Listen to this.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just a pet peeve of mine is when you see folks, that are done with their rods, they put it on the guides. Those trebles, those slide around, they're scratching, and some of those guides are ceramic. I'm sure nobody in our audience does that, but that is one that I will say, folks, don't ever loop it on your guide. Don't ever hook it to your guide.
Scotty, true story recently, good friend of Trevor's, who Trevor goes fishing with regularly. They got back to the house and Trevor said to me, he's like, yeah, Reese lost 3 lures today. He got 2 of them hung up in a bush, but Dad, he pulled just a little bit on his rod and the line broke. It broke 3 times in 3 hours. And I said, Reese, bring me your rod. And we were sitting in Reese's dad's barn, having a beer, watching the Jays game. And I said, bring the rod over here. And Trevor said he checked it for nicks. But there was one guide, it wasn't even the first guide. It was the second guide down, had a nick in it. Trevor just checked the top guide, and it had a nick in it. And I actually took a piece. He was using 10-pound braid or 15-pound braid, and I took the braid and I rubbed it on that nick, and it broke boom, it was like a razor blade. I couldn't believe that little nick did that, but that's what happens, man. So.
This is a great tip, Brian. Thanks so much for sharing that. If you aren't sure and you are having braid or something break and you don't really understand why, this is a great tip. Take a Q-tip, go around your guides. Yep. If you see any residue left, you obviously have a problem and it has to be replaced.
When I used to guide, I would see guys set the hook and the rod would hit the side of the boat. First thing I would do was go to the glove box and get the Q-tips out of the little plastic case and check the tip. Because that they smacked it on the side of the boat. It was going to do it. People don't pay attention to things either, too. I always hear us talking about retying. So I made some jigs for a buddy. He wanted me to make them bigger marabou jigs. Guy caught some perch in the St. Lawrence River this year. They were 15.5 inches.
Oh, wow. Beauties.
Through the ice. But they only weighed 1.5 pounds because they're skinny. They're not like Simcoe.
Okay. Right.
They're not corkers, right? So he wanted a 1/4 ounce jig to get down. So I dug out some nice little heads that I had, and I tied pink and white fluff on them for them. So theirs is not.
Ooh.
Sends me a picture.
All right.
And it didn't send me that picture like that. I blew it up and everything to look at it, because I saw the big tag end sticking out of the middle of the knot, and I couldn't figure out why the tag end was in the middle of the knot. And I don't know, you know what I mean? And I sent it to him, and I said, boy, I said, are you going to fish pro next year? Just saying it to him, bugging him like that. He goes, why? And I sent him a picture. He says, oh my God, I can't believe you saw that.
Yikes.
He said, I'm terrible with knots. But I mean, you look at that. That's horrid. And the guy's a really good fisherman too. Like, I mean, he catches lots of fish,
We can only hope Brian.
He'll tighten it.
Yeah, we can hope.
So, listen, though, I read a great article recently about fishing knots, and the two guys that we're discussing, one, it's a podcast called, oh my goodness, I forget the name of the podcast. Doesn't matter. The guy's out of Buffalo, and he actually interviews guys from all over. He was interviewing an open angler, and they had a great tip for fluorocarbon knots. And I'm going to ask you, Jim, and you guys, all three of you, if you've heard of this. And I think it's a great tip. So we know fluorocarbon, when you tighten it down, you got to be careful it doesn't burn itself, right? Like you don't. So their tip was, and I think it's a great tip, and I think maybe we do this anyways. I don't, if I go a braid knot, I give that braid knot a good tug to make sure it's tight, whether it's a Palomar or a jam knot or whatever. But with fluorocarbon, I'm always scared of it burning. So I just wet it and I cinch it down really slow, but I never give it that tug. I just kind of cinch it down slow. And these guys actually said that's what they do too, because their first fish they catch is going to give that like a natural little cinch to it. But they think too many guys on fluorocarbon knots are reefing it down too hard, and they're weakening that knot. Like it's better just a slow cinch on a wet knot and just let it tighten up on its own. What do you guys think about that? I think it's a great tip.
Yeah, no, I can see that. There's no reason, and I'm a big one always on tightening a knot with good pressure.
Yeah.
Because I had a lesson taught to me by a guy I fished with, a much older guy, or I don't even know if Ernie's still with us. I haven't talked to him for years, but I saw him testing the knot and then pulling it as hard as he could, and every once in a while he'd break one and he'd say, I didn't tie it right, and he'd do it again. And yeah, there's nothing wrong, but for this, because years ago we were down at Bagley Lures in Florida, and Jim Bagley was there, and that's when they had silver thread line, which I won my second classic in Aurelia with. I think that was the year we won 4 tournaments that year, wow. Including a classic, so 5 for the year, which is a great year, and we won a ton of money. And he showed us, he took the line and he had all these little hooks and he just tied it around the hook, just like it was a lure stuck on a wall or something. Yeah. And he'd pull it and he'd take a little piece of toilet paper, just fold it over 4 or 5 times, like a Kleenex, anything. He'd pull the line just taut, not pulling it. Yep. And he'd rub his fingers on it about 6 or 7 times back and forth, and the line would break.
Wow.
The friction from the I'll do it some night. I'll set it up here and I'll show you.
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
And the friction of the line would break, and everybody just like the room went quiet. Nobody had any idea, but that's what Jim Bagley was, that kind of guy. I mean, he came up with Bagley Lures. He understood, doing things right and, getting to everything. And he had that line made. It came out of a surgical extrusion machine in Germany.
Jeez.
Okay. Yeah, and it was cooled with water, and that's why it had that mirror finish on it.
Yeah.
And it reflected. You'd put it in the water and put it in a weed bed, and it just disappeared. And it wasn't fluorocarbon. Yeah. I mean, it was, I forget what the name of it was he had for it. Who got silver thread now, Jay? Who's got that? Still Pradco?
I think it's Pradco. I think it's still Pradco, Jim. Yeah.
Lawrence, you got you have any advice for us when it comes to fluorocarbon, or does that happen to you? Or
when I do my leader knots, I always, you're supposed to tighten both knots at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But I always start with tightening the fluoro first, because I find if you tighten the braid side too much, and then you tighten the fluoro, then you got to slide the braid down along the length of the fluoro, and it heats it up, and it gets stuck there, and then you're screwed. You got to start all over again, because you've ruined that section of the fluoro. The other thing is, these polymer knots, they can snap too, and I think there's something to do with a kink point in the fluoro as well. And when you kink fluoro, it's weak there at that point.
100%.
It's no more strength. And something with that polymer knot, that it somehow you can snap that just by setting the hook. So it's an easy knot to tie, and it's just for that it's fast. But for jig fishing, on heavy structure, it's maybe not the best always with a fluorocarbon leader, because you can snap that and it always breaks right at the knot.
It's a great topic that you bring up, Jay, because I for one, as Kevin says, I tug them because I want it to fail in my hand as opposed to if I hook a big fish. Kevin, it's a great point that you bring, but I do that to make sure that the line is in good condition. What I have found with the fluorocarbon is if you do pull too tight, depending on the knot, of course, but if you do pull too tight, it stretches. So what Alicia is saying is that the force in which we are pulling to tighten those knots might be more than the actual pound test of the line. So Alicia, that is actually a really good point, because that's what I'm finding is that fluorocarbon will stretch if you pull it too hard. So
well, there's no standard in the line industry either.
No.
For diameters, the 10-pound test, or diameters, the 20-pound test. Like
Yeah.
I've been asking guys. I've been keeping this in the truck. It's 10-pound test. You'll see this stuff in August. I've yet to see anybody that's broken it with their hands without cutting themselves.
It actually, the Moose had this, and he allowed me to try it. I can't say enough about that fluorocarbon.
It was stupid strong, and it's only 10-pound test.
I can't say enough about it. If you haven't tried it, hopefully you will, and you will maybe prove us wrong. But it has microfiber teeth in it, so that when you do a knot, it actually clinches to itself. It's a remarkable line. That the engineering behind it is incredible. Ed comes up with and this I actually learned this from Big Jim many years ago.
Yeah, you can use that too. Yeah.
Yeah, barrel swivels. That's how I attach it. Never really took the time to learn the knots because the barrel swivel always helped. But one thing, as we did before at the outset, was don't have those barrels go through your eyelets. Those guides, man, it's just as bad as hooking the treble. So again, great idea, great advice. Any other never do's from any one of you?
Well, I'm gonna say there's a myth out there that really I get asked a lot about, and recently we've had a lot of east winds down at home. So in Long Point Bay, so it's open to the east end. So north, south, and west, the bay is closed off. But if an east wind blows, it's hard fishing because that's
like Quinny.
Yeah, like it gets rough out there. Like, but this whole fish when wind from the east, fish bite the least. I've been asked that a lot recently, and I keep telling guys that maybe it's cliche, but just go fishing. Like, anytime you can go fishing is a good time to go fishing. I know you guys agree with me, but these myths about, oh, don't go because of this, and don't go because it's raining, don't go because it's sunny, don't go because it's calm. Go fishing. Like, that is the message I've been telling people is you will not get better at fishing if you don't go in all those different conditions. And anytime you can go is a good time to go. So what do you guys think about the east wind, the dreaded east wind?
I think it's more the northeast. That's the cold wind, right?
That's a cold front. Yeah,
that's a cold front. And that's a legitimate, that can shut down a bite pretty good. But it's the northeast, not the east. I mean, on the east, on the St. Lawrence River, you can get some pretty tall waves because it's pushing against the current. And those waves get stacked up and tall and sharp, and that can be pretty rough. You can lose crap off your boat pretty quick on that for sure. Yeah. But that's more of a safety issue. And I think, as much as I like to fish, in the wind, and I always, it's best fishing when it's windy, for sure, and pre-storm front kind of conditions. But last year I was a hair's breadth away from going out on the Ottawa River when that Dirachi came through. It moved from Toronto to Ottawa in an hour and a half, and it 11 people died here in Ottawa from that storm. And my friend was looking at his radar, and he said, "No, my radar says this is going to come here at 6:00 tonight. It's in 5 hours." But none of these computer models were predicting a storm that could move that fast. And I had another stupid weather app that said, "No, we have a storm front that's coming now. It's coming in half an hour." And that was tracking a totally different storm that didn't even come by Ottawa. It went by us. But I was thinking, this is the storm that's coming. And so we were sitting in my truck about to launch the boat. And I said, let's just wait an hour or so and see what happens. And that Dirachi hit. And a woman died just about half a kilometer from where we were launching the boat on the Ottawa River. So I think, you gotta now you have to pay a little more attention to these signals that the weather's sending and play it a little bit safer. And I also think, I've been reading And people are saying, maybe you should let someone know where you're fishing, because if these storms are going to get a little more intense and come a little more of a surprise, where were you? Who knows where you are, right? And maybe that's not a bad thing to leave some sort of report with someone so they know where you are. They just fished someone out of the Otto River today, life jacket, and I don't know if they revived him or not. He was not breathing when they pulled him out of the river. They tried everything they could, and last thing I knew, he was being taken to the hospital. But probably fishing alone, right? He had a life jacket, floating down the river, and obviously fishing alone. And who knows how long he was floating down that river?
Yeah. Makes it easy to find the body.
Yeah. There's going to be a funeral for that one.
It's true.
Yeah.
100%. This, when it comes to bad weather, a great topic that you talked about. Jim, would you rather fish the hour before a storm or the hour after a storm?
It's usually leading up to it is when things happen. But, everybody sort of said it a little bit. And I'll just go overboard with it. Go fishing when you can go fishing. If you go out on the water and the wind's blowing from the east, and you say, "Oh, the wind's blowing from the east, I'm not going to get a bite," then your coconut's messed up when you get out there.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention because you think you're not going to catch a fish, and then and you don't. I've won tons of money with east winds and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's all about the fish, and the bottom line is if it's a cold front and an east wind and the fish haven't eaten, it means dick.
Yeah.
The fish are ready to eat, they're going to eat. And that's why it happens. You ever notice that quite often when you get terrible conditions, one or two teams will really get a big bag?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone always catches them, man.
They bumped into a bunch of fish that were really hungry, that were going to eat. They didn't care. Yeah. And they just happened to go on top of them. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. So, Jay, are you before or after, man?
I'm before. I think I'm with Jim. Leading up to it's the best time. But to Lawrence's point about weather, like I can't stress enough about how. So we love fishing before a storm. I know a lot of my friends do. We hear these stories about, static electricity and all this kind of stuff. Like you got to really watch yourself. And the biggest thing I've heard about, and I've seen some of the comments in the chat about weather forecasts. When it's the day of the forecast, learn to use your weather models, and I'm not talking Vanna White, Jim. Okay. I'm talking about the models that we're going to look at, where we can look at what is the wind forecast for that day? What is the radar forecast for that day? Like if it says 30% chance of thunderstorms and a funnel cloud drops over your boat, that's not necessarily a wrong forecast. That's an accurate forecast because it's 30% chance. But the radar, I find for me personally, when the day of happens, I'm watching the radar more than I just watch the forecast. Like the forecast tells me general weather patterns and trends up to the day. The day of, it's the radar and then the wind forecast. And the wind is not always right. It is still a forecast, but there's certain wind models that are better than others. But that radar, especially around bad weather, that radar is so important to understand and have a good radar app. The Weather Network is okay, but there's a couple other ones out there that I like, and understand it and trust it. It's way, way safer to do.
Windy is probably one of the best out there. My Radar is a great app too, Alicia, especially when you're tracking a storm. It's a good satellite radar. But
you know what you're seeing too now? You're seeing a lot more people fishing bigger water because of the small water.
Amen.
They didn't. That was not done before. 15 years ago, all the guys weren't out in the middle of Lake Ontario. It's a complete. Got to show you a cool thing. You were just asking about Lake Ontario, and I remembered this just a second ago. This is a drone shot of the island. See how clear the water is?
Wow, that's something.
See there's a boat right here. I don't know whether you can see the boat right at the bottom here.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, just by that big rock looking thing. Yeah.
The guy had a drone up, but that's the island we're talking about.
With all the snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's Main Duck Island.
Yeah.
The bit that's along here, the black line that's along the inside there.
Yep.
Remember I told you the story about my first instance with the spy baits catching the 712 and all the other giant fish and everything. It was right in that slot, and they were all on the dark spot. They weren't off on the side on the limestone. They were on all the little round rocks that were, it was sort of like a little moraine or something like this, like looked like you bulldozed rocks into a hump about this high. And they were just all the size of your fist. And it was just, millions of them along there. But that's how clear the water is. You see that picture
That's
from
amazing.
a drone. And, that's not a major drone. That's a drone that cost the guy $400.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's just
Very
goes to
cool,
show
man.
you how- yep.
One thing I did want to mention too, and I know we don't have to mention it to the folks that are on here watching, but one thing that does kind of irks me, and when people invite you to go on a fishing trip, whether it's on a boat or wherever, come with money.
Yeah.
If I'm sure, Jay, you get lots of invites. Lawrence, I'm sure you've had lots of invites. Jim, I know you've always been, very stand-upish when it comes to that. Pay your way, man. Like, no one's ever going to refuse your money unless they truly wanted you there. And it's, I don't know, it's their wish to just bring.
I tried to give Greg money last week after we were done fishing. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't going to be friends anymore.
Yeah.
But if you want to become a friend, if you want to turn that little, like, I know, like, as a person with disability, people want to take me fishing as a sort of little charity thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to turn that into a friendship, you pay your way, you make yourself more of an asset than a liability.
Yeah.
And then you become a fishing buddy. If you want a fishing buddy, you got to turn that sort of like, hey, I'll take you fishing, newbie, and that's for any newbie. But if you want to become a buddy and have a seat in that boat reserved with your name on it, you pay your way the first time, and then you've gone a long way to getting your name on that.
Yeah, like whenever I take anybody fishing, I very seldom take money in the boat.
Yep.
Whether I know them or not, I figure it's my boat; it's going out anyway. If I invited you, it's fine. I've gotten in the truck, and the next morning you get in the truck and you open the glove box to get something, and there's $150 or $100 or $50 or whatever the person could afford for gas, and it came from them. But like that was really funny with Greg last week. When I tried to pay, he actually, my leg was hanging out the truck. He grabbed my leg and threw it in the truck and slammed the door.
Wow.
But
I looked at him. I said, "You just grew like 15 inches and gained 175 pounds there."
I was going to say,
because Greg's not a very big guy.
I'm like, when did Greg have a growth spurt?
I was waiting for the airplane spin, and it was me, not even him.
Like, they always say, "Watch out for the little guy." Don't we all heard that. Watch out for the little guy.
Spent a lot of time working in bars. The little guys.
I'll tell you guys. When I used to fish a lot of bass tournaments, club tournaments, right? And it's hard to figure out how, and some guys don't want to be reimbursed. Some guys do. What I like to do is I like to pay. So let's say the entry fee was $50 for me, and I'm going as a non-boater. I'm going to go as a boater. I'm going to pay the $50 for my partner. I'm going to pay that entry fee for them. And then if they still want money at the end of the day, I'm going to have some extra cash in my wallet. But usually just the gesture of paying their entry fee for the day, and they would cover the gas. I've also had guys say, hey, you got to pay for my gas, my oil, my insurance went up. I've had people give me a whole financial statement of why I owe them more money. Okay. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I have to hide money in glove boxes and stuff. And there's even a couple people on this show tonight, not on the screen, but in the chat, that will never take money from me. And I have tried to give them money and they won't take it. So, and I'm the same way with a lot of my friends. But it's true though, Scotty. It's a great point that I make it a point. I usually have 100, 150 cash in my wallet when I go fishing with somebody, and I'm going to offer. It's going to come out. And if they don't want to take it, we will still be friends, but I'm not going to be happy about it. That happens. So
100%. And I think too, the expectations of folks when you do take them fishing, if you are going to invite someone, if it's important for you to catch all the fish, make that be known. And I know it sounds strange, but it gets very awkward. And I'll give an example. Like Moose kept saying, come up to the front, come up to the front. I'm like, no, dude, if it's working, leave it the way it is. I said, I am not that guy. I'm having just as much fun watching you catch fish as if I was to catch fish. In fact, I have more fun watching others catch fish.
You know what though, man? I'm going to tell you, Scotty, I disagree with you on that one. For me, like I've done very well in tournaments, both being like driver and not a driver. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, when I was successful as a co-angler was every time I got to go to the front of the boat, and I took it. So there used to be rules back in the day.
Oh yeah, 50% of the time the non-boater got to drive the trolling motor, right?
Yeah,
half
so
the day.
I got to take the trolling motor half the day. That was the rule.
That's the rule.
So I took it. I took it every time, and I made Team Ontario twice as a non-boater, as a co-angler. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because I took the trolling motor. Now, you're friends with Moose, and most of the guys I fished with, even though I was competing against them in the boat, we were friends. I can only ever think of one person that I never spoke to after a qualifier, and that guy was a total a-hole.
But Jason, you're bringing up that point. They have so many rules in the OBN because the non-boaters are competing against everybody. You're not fishing as a team. You're fishing individually. So if a boater at the front of the boat and the electric motor comes in to the pads straight in, and you're preventing the person at the back of the boat from having any real chances of fishing those pads, that's a penalty. So there's tons, and I tell you, like I fish out of the back of my boat. I have all my guest pilots and friends drive my boat, and they drive the trolling motor. But I tell you, I don't invite them back after a while when I realize that we're cruising shoreline for pike, let's say, and they're just fan casting everything we come across. They're fan casting it all, and by the time I get to it, it's covered, right? Like I want to have a little bit of territory that's left untouched for me to fish, right? And I think as someone on the boat, you can do that. If it's your boat and you're inviting someone, you make sure you leave them, and they're at the back of the boat, you leave them some territory to fish, and you point that out to them. Say, look, I'm going to fish this, and from this section as we're moving along, and you fish this section, and decide what kind of baits, and then people know that they're getting some untouched water to go after, especially for pike that are very sort of aggressive and to move about. Other sedentary fish, not as important, but I've been on the back of boats with hot shot bass anglers in tournaments, and you're fishing as a team, and they're so intent on winning that prize, that check, that you're lucky if you get a one or two decent casts.
You don't need those people in your life.
I know. And then when you do get one, they look at you and go, "Where'd you get that?" Like you just caught them. They missed a piece of a cover that they missed, and you pulled the fish out of it, and now you've sort of embarrassed them almost.
Yeah, that's why I like to fish flats. Like Scotty, last year you and Luke and that, you fish on a flat, so everybody's somebody has to cast ahead.
Yeah.
But if you're casting ahead, it means you're not casting off to all the sides. You're everything. And a flat's a flat. That's why I just really like to do that. Like it sucks when you take somebody fishing and you decide you're going to go junk fishing along the shore. Because it's not a question of your lures landing every couple of feet. Like when Rocky and I fished together, our lures would land within 2 to 3 feet of each other, just overlapping as we went, regardless of who was on the boat. It's not about who's catching the fish; it's about catching a fish.
Yeah.
And as I've so often said, one of the things that I loved to do was net big fish for other people.
Yeah.
Amen.
One less you have to catch.
You know about fishing in a team tournament though, like so whether you're fishing as a team or against each other, you're still fishing together, right? So Scotty, like you're fishing with Moose, you guys are pretty much going to be doing the exact same thing, or maybe a little bit different to figure out what is really working better. That's the thing about angling too, right? That's what we sometimes we ruin ourselves because I could be having a stellar day and then I'll stop and be like, how can I catch more? How can I catch more than what I want to do something else. But in these tournaments, a good advice that I can give to a lot of people is, and even whether you're fishing against the angler in the front or the back, or whether they're your buddy, do something different than what they're doing. I've been in boats now. I love fishing a jig. I love fishing a jig for bass. But if I'm in a boat against a guy in the front or girl in the front, and they're a sniper with a jig, I ain't throwing a jig. Especially if they're a sniper where they're good at working a jig and they're also good at hitting every target with the jig. Then there's no targets left for me, but I can still fish those targets. I throw a creature bait or I throw a wacky rig in there, or I got to throw something else as a follow-up bait. And I've been very successful doing that. But, and then there's other times too where the person at the bow of the boat is just not as efficient as maybe you are. So you have to sort of fish to your strengths, but it's not fishing. Like I said, Sky, it's not necessarily fishing against that person. You can fish with those people. Like, let's talk about the conditions you had on Saturday. Pretty calm conditions.
Yeah.
You know, and there's two ways of fishing calm conditions to me. You're either going to fish ultra slow and ultra finesse, or you got to rip it, like Jim said, right? So you got two ways of fishing. And if there's two of you, unless you're smashing fish, you better each be doing something different till you start smashing them. And then you dial that in. And that's hard to do when there's a lot of time in between bites.
100%.
Right?
And as I said, it worked out well. Like, you know, I think both of us sort of complemented each other in terms of the style of fishing. Moose loves his hard baits. So, you know, he's throwing search baits. He's throwing crank baits. Yeah. He loves his jerk baits, that kind of stuff. I'm more of the finesse. I'm more of the plastic. So until he found the school, with the search bait, you know, he caught two kind of in a row. That's when, you know, he threw on the jig, threw on the plastic, and we just basically chased the school. Now, as happy, listen, and I was thrilled that he was catching fish, absolutely over the moon. I don't know how many of them I netted. I think he caught 17. But to sort of validate what I was trying to do at the back was he was pushing that school ahead. And I don't know if it was the electronics, if they were just being spooked because the fish were getting caught. I don't know. But I was trying to see if they would come up the sides and that school would come around the boat. And they never did. He just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it worked out really, really well. But as I said, I think the moral of this story and this topic is share your expectations. Be clear, be transparent, because at the end of the day, nobody wants a bad experience out in the water. And it's awkward, you know, when you have to leave the launch, like you said, Jay, and you're not talking to one another. That sucks.
Yeah. Or you pay the launch fee for somebody, they get mad at you. Alicia, just saying.
Dingers are the way to go. Absolutely, Jeremy. Lads, anything else you wanted to add before we go tonight?
No, great show tonight, guys. Great time.
I do, sir.
Oh, there. Yes, you have a special event happening this weekend that I think you wanted to mention.
Well, besides behind my house, we'll probably have 100 kids out there chucking beating the water to a froth there, winding up bluegills and rock bass, and inevitably some kid will catch a 4-pounder. I'll get mad at him because I wanted to catch no. So, when you're out there fishing and you're catching fish, that's when you need to leave those fish and go look for new spots. It's so hard for people to comprehend that, but if the fish are biting, when do people look for new spots and start moving around? Well, I went to my good spot, didn't get a bite, then I didn't catch anything all day. Well, you knew the fish weren't biting, so why would you go look for new spots? When the fish are, and I used to do it muskie fishing all the time.
Wow. Yeah, because we're taught, you know,
just cover what, like look for new stuff. Go look at the maps now. You don't have to look now. You just look at the map and you go, I can go here. I can try this. Yeah. Look at this. There's a bit of a turn in the weed line. It looks like here. Go look for new spots when the fish are biting, so you catch them and then you have confidence in the spot and you go back to it. There's a lot more to this than dragging a jig in a minnow. You know what I'm saying, guys? Yeah. You can up your game just by doing a few things that up it big time.
But Jim, when you're tournament fishing, they always say never leave fish to find fish.
Well, that's a different thing.
Yeah, different thing. But I think people carry that idea with them in all their fishing, right? Never leave fish to find fish. Yeah, and then what they do is they just pound a school to pieces, and then they move on, and then they move on. And I think, you know, even Major League Fishing now, after 4 years of having their competitors chase down, you know, schools of 2-pound bass so they catch as many as they could to get their total poundage up for the day and win the tournament, they've actually acknowledged the fact that that's not the way to do it, right? That's not the way they do it. This year, Major League Fishing has changed the rules. They're going back to the top 5 fish. It's still catch, weigh, release right on the spot. Yeah. But it's your 5 biggest fish. So now Bassmaster and the Elite and Major League Fishing, it's all going to be apples to apples. You know, your best 5 fish wins the tournament. You know, if Major League Fishing with all their money couldn't get people to buy into the idea of just catch as many as you can, and they what they did is they surveyed their tournament anglers. What do you like? What do you want to change? And it was unanimous. They all wanted to go back to the biggest 5.
Interesting.
That's the standard. That's what we've all grown up on. It used to be 10 fish, and then it was 7 fish. Like Jim, when was it? Like 10? It was like back in the 80s. It was still 10 fish, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah, I don't remember the 10. I just remember 6.
6.
But I remember Bassmasters in the States being 10 fish.
Yeah, like, and not that long ago, like for at least in the 70s, it was 10 fish, and maybe the early 80s. But the 5 fish limit is what, there's so much based on that. There's so much history based on that 5 fish limit. Records are set on that. I love looking at the data. Like, I've looked at some of the data that's been published by MLF to look at fish per minute caught, fish per hour. Like, there's some cool stats in that. At the end of the day, for the average bass tournament fan, it's the 5 fish limit. That's, and I can spin it both ways. I see both sides, but you're right, Lawrence. It's that 5 fish limit. And a lot of the MLF anglers, not a lot, but there's quite a few, like, they actually own shares in that business. Like, they're not just participants. They're
there's 13. There was 13 of them that started it, and they ran it for a couple of years, and then Bass Pro Shop stepped in and took it to the next level. But I think what's going to happen next is, are you going to see, maybe now you've got 2 premier bass fishing leagues. Do you need 2 leagues claiming to be the best? It's like World Wrestling, WW and WWR and all this stuff. Do you really need to have 2 leagues? So it could be that this is going to be the first step towards a reamalgamation of these two leagues and getting back to the one.
I don't think they'll reamalgamate. This is
big business.
Yeah, it's big. Like, look at it in Ontario. There's so many great tournament series in Ontario. I'd love to see just 1 or 2 big ones and pool those resources to make it bigger and better. Let's get back to the OV days, the GM days. Like those tournament trails were significant, the best. And we'll never go back to those days, unfortunately. Those were it. And but with bass fishing, it's because that's just how it goes. We can't play in the same sandbox. The sandbox ain't big enough. That's the problem.
Bottom line, if you ask the question, what do you want to win?
Yeah.
The Bassmaster Classic.
Yep.
You're right.
Well, that's it. So you're going to have that's now just by fault that it's the same. They're playing the same game now. Yeah. And so you're comparing apples with apples. Now you can say this is the better one. This is first and this is second. Right. So does Major League Fishing want to just be the second fiddle now? Are they going to
bid it all along?
Yeah.
Look how
but
many
they were different before.
they have.
It was apples and oranges before. Now it's apples and apples. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out over the next couple of 3 years.
I don't think it's apples and apples. I think it's still apples and oranges. I'm going to give you my reason, and the reason is, look at how many anglers are moving back to, like, Bobby Lane, Mish Monroe, and a few others are going into they're EQ anglers now. So that's the new term, right? EQ anglers you have to fish all 9 opens to make the elites now. Mm-hmm. And there's some anglers who have, like, thrown all their pennies in that pot, and they're going to go back. They've left MLF, and I'm not saying MLF is going to go away. I don't think it's going to happen. We had FLW for years, right? That's just how it goes. You have 2 choices, and in fact, for many years, FLW payouts were way better than bass. The Forest Wood Cup was paying $1 million one time. I remember when Chris won his first event on Champlain, like, that was a lot more money than you'd win at an open on the same par, right? So, but now the tides have shifted back towards bass, I think, right now, and the tides might shift again later in the future. But I think in the end, bass is really where people want to be.
Yeah.
Now bass has struggled. Like, when bass was owned by ESPN, those were tough days, man.
Yeah.
Those were tough times. Now we're back more to that grassroots program, and I really believe that bass really has a good recipe going right now, and I hope they keep it going. And
I agree. I think the sun is rising for BASS again, and they're going to become the premier number 1 again.
Yeah, I love what MLF is doing though too. Like, they fill a niche. They really do. If there was only one, I think we can never have just one. This isn't the Highlander. This is bass fishing.
How many divisions does FLW have now? There's like 5.
Ooh, I think they're back to 4. I think it's like they have their clubs, their nation, like their Bass Federation. That's the Bass Federation is part of that, right? The old Bass Federation. Then they have the BFLs. They have the Toyota Series, and then they have They have 4 or 5 levels, Jim.
Yeah.
They have a couple more levels than BASS. A couple more, I think. Yeah.
Well, look at Jason Christie coming back, eh? Remember the commercials?
Yeah.
Unfinished business.
Yep.
And then he won a tournament. Then the next year he wins the Classic.
Yep.
Then he becomes roommates with Gussie, and Gussie wins the Classic.
Yes. Love it. I know.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's very. I'm going to say this, and don't take this the wrong way, Jimmy, but I think it's that Gussie puts on this nice front, but he's a sneaky guy. Hanging out with Christy now is sneaky business. Like I love it though. I know they're good friends, and their wives are good friends, but like that's such a smart move of Gussie.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm not saying he did it like to get better at bass fishing. I think Gussie is a genuine guy who he's attracted genuine people, but Jason Christie, he's a stone cold killer on the water. Always has been.
A wizard.
And it's impressive that him and Gussie are such good friends, don't you think? Like I really find that
completely
amazing.
different.
It's so amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Well, it's like that. David Dudley's the same thing.
Right.
Look at the money he's won. Is he still second all time? I think so.
I think he's second all time still. Yeah.
David Dudley. Like the guy, when I talked with him at Andy's show there, we sat and had lunch together upstairs.
Yep.
And that guy, like the room got cold.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like he is like he's just he just knows things.
Yeah.
He applies it. He's not he's not doing 20 different things.
Yeah.
He has a few things that he does, and he does them really, really well.
I had at Andy's show, we were doing seminars, remember in the main room there in the big hall?
Yep.
And I got to sit with him during one of the panels and we talked.
I was the MC for that. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked for like 20 minutes. Right. And like, I wish I could have recorded what we talked about, because the stuff he was saying, we talked about very basic bass fishing stuff, but the stuff that he was saying was so profound. It was like, oh my God, I'm in the presence of royalty here. Seriously. Like the guy,
he asked me what kind of hook do you use for a wacky rig? And I said, the Gamakatsu finesse weedless a lot of times, you know. He looks at me, he goes, "That's a dang bluegill hook."
It's true.
And he says,
Wow.
"A dang bluegill hook." I mean, those are pretty heavy duty hooks. You know, I've swung a lot of 6-pound, 8, 10-pound pike and other stuff on those, and they ain't giving it up. But his idea of a hook is a whole different idea of mine. His idea of a hook, like he starts off, what have I got handy here? He would start off with something about the size of this.
Yeah.
And go up from there if he thought he could, you know? Friggin' hooks are bigger than the lures he's using. Like, it's, but hey, he's won like $6 million or something.
It's true.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing about guys like Dudley and others, like those anglers in the US, they are on just such another level, you know? And, you know, it's impressive how Gussie and Chris and Corey and, you know, Cooper, how they've adapted to that, you know, and it's impressive how they've grown up here fishing sort of our way, and then have been as successful as they've been down there, and they've adjusted very well, you know. But the level that these guys are on, Dudley and others, I can't even explain to you what level that's at. It's not even, there's not like 1 or 2 levels. There's like this graduated system, and then they're so good at what they do. And just to be in their presence and talk fishing with them, you know, like tonight we're all rambling about this stuff, but when I'm in presence of Dudley, I don't speak. It's like I just let the man talk, and I try and absorb as much as I can.
Well, it's exactly, you just described what I do every Monday, and as Alicia has said, you know, it's like documentation. It's like
get out of here.
It's like listening to these three, and
I'll put my man bun on. Hang on.
Yeah, my 50-year-old son. My 50-year-old son is trying one on now.
Oh, geez.
I wasn't impressed with that comment. I'm going to have a rat's tail. Do you have dental insurance at your work?
No, but my 50-year-old son, my daughter put one on his head yesterday, and I said, "You don't want to go to school like that." And I'm not old school. Maybe I'm old school, I guess, but I don't know. It's something about a man bun, like an old grandma's hairdo on a young boy. This doesn't go. But
I don't know how we got on Mad Buns from one mullet to another.
Lawrence,
I'm still worried about my son.
Yeah.
Captain Narwhal.
Gentlemen, as always, it is a pleasure. I want to thank Yvonne as well for coming on today with our special guest, Lisa Tadgell, who was up at Horwood. And it was great to see that because, of course, we're going to be there in August with the CFN retreat, the 5th annual CFN retreat. Looking forward to seeing some CFNers there as well. So if you haven't booked, make sure you do. And, of course, each and every Monday, I get the thrill of listening to these three. So, Alicia, I will echo your sentiments. And, Jim, this weekend, it is going to be an honor to be down in Sealy's Bay and putting some smiles on some kids'
Danny,
faces.
don't forget to change the sheets, Scotty.
God, no kidding. Gentlemen, I bid you farewell. I look forward to seeing you again next Monday. Jim, I look forward to seeing you this weekend with our good buddy Steve, who's out on Lake O right now and wasn't able to join us. So hopefully he's caught me a whale. Right. We're going to be able to share that on CFN. Until then, I bid you all farewell. I love you all. I hope everybody has a great and prosperous and healthy and safe week. And Dave Mercer, it is up to you to take us away. Gentlemen.
Take us away, Dave. See you guys.
See you guys.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.